Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss American Trading. You are tuned in to our podcast entitled The Secret War on Cash, where we take a hard look at some of the things taking shape in our financial markets and our economy. As you hear that rumbling in the background, that's my co-host, Chris Agelastos. Chris, how are you today?
Was I rumbling a lot?
I heard a lot of rumble back there.
I tend to do that, What can you do?
What I was thinking to myself and telling myself, he must be getting like super organized right now to get ready for all this.
Yeah, pumped up, getting fired up.
That's it. Or we are just getting into the getting close. Well, getting into the fall area. We're in Arizona, so this is a time we look forward to quite a bit because weather starts to change. It starts to finally cool off. Football season has started. I don't want to speak for everyone out there, but for me, it's a great time of the year. So very exciting, and a lot of exciting things happening in the markets and the economy. So let's get right into it here. We're going to talk today about jobs. Well, jobs and immigration. And I don't know, maybe there might be many people out there, Chris, who aren't really familiar with or aware of the magnitude that the job market and our border, that the connectivity there, let's say.
Sure.
In this first article, we'll just look here, the Great Replacement Job Shock. 1.3 million native-born Americans just lost their jobs, replaced by 635,000 immigrants. Now, this is happening at a time where Americans and U.S. households cannot afford for this to happen because we've been covering this for months and months, over a year now, I believe, where you have, the wages going down. You have people who have been having to rely on credit cards just to buy groceries, people pulling out of the retirement account to pay bills, make ends meet. And so when you start talking about jobs being replaced by immigrants, this is not good news, for anyone out there. And to be sure, as we are obviously getting deeper and deeper by the day into this election season, this is a problem that's going to be at the forefront of what's going on in debates and what's going to happen when, people show up to those polls. So tell us a little more about this situation, this problem we have, Chris.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, the government is trying to spin it a little bit. They're bragging about a couple million.
No way.
I know. Hard to believe, right?
No way. Yeah.
They're usually so straightforward. But yeah, they're bragging about, a couple million jobs created. What they don't mention is that it's part-time jobs, which typically pay less, have little to no benefits. And they've lost 1.5 million full-time jobs. So certainly a net loss, but they find a way to post a bigger number there. So, and most of this has been happening since 2018-19 is when it kind of started and is really ramped up. So of course, during the Biden administration. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about this from the Trump camp going into the election. And look, jobs in general are great, but when your citizens are losing their jobs to immigrants, in this case, approximately 2/3 of which are illegal or undocumented. I don't know if I'm allowed to say illegal anymore.
On this podcast, you can.
I'm okay here. I'm safe. I'm in a safe space. That's good. But that really does show you the impact that the border has, and this is a take that I really hadn't heard a lot about, honestly, until this article. I mean, we hear about the problems in the border, but a lot of it addresses crime and issues. Of course, in this last week, a lot of us have heard about the Venezuelan gangs that are taking over. The big story this week was out of Colorado. So you hear that kind of safety and security stuff, which obviously is a big problem. But really, even the people that are coming across, maybe that aren't causing some of those problems, are now also taking our jobs. And you have to wonder, perhaps this is why the left, doesn't want much verification on who's voting. They're giving jobs to these people that are streaming across the border, and they're wanting their vote. and maybe that's their way of keeping Trump and other conservatives out of office. So definitely going to be a big issue, I think, coming into the election here. And unfortunately, it certainly doesn't help our current situation. And I hope that it gets better, but I expect it to probably get worse before we see any improvement.
Sure. Well, they cite in here mentioned, and as I look at this, it's almost like this is phrased as kind of in a menacing or intimidating way, where they say you can have illegal immigration or you can have even more inflation. So they're saying, listen,
Right.
if you don't let these illegal immigrants in, if you don't do this, then you're going to have higher price inflation. And to me, it's like, this can't be the only solution. Like, this is the solution to the problem. Let's let illegals in, so therefore our prices don't go up. And it's not as though that's really I don't think, an accurate statement to make anyways, because these illegal immigrants are, I would assume, not paying taxes. They're not adding to the tax base. They're not doing the things that these other workers, these domestically born workers, would be doing and contributing to the tax base, et cetera. Right. And, if you look at in the first part of the article here, this is something that, as Biden has been in office since October of 2019, native-born U.S. workers have lost 1.4 million jobs.
Yeah.
Over that same period, foreign-born workers have gained 3 million jobs. I mean, that's 2 to 1, more than 2 to 1. And so this is something that our economy, but more importantly, American families, American households here in the U.S., this is not sustainable to a healthy economy and to a healthy country. Right. So, and with that being said, looking at really what the brass tacks is, if you will, the bottom line reality to households, taking a look at this next article, I found this interesting. That's why I wanted to cover this today. It's a map that shows the purchasing power disparity state by state of $100. So in other words, you take all the states in the country, and if you're to spend 100 there, it's telling you how far does your $100 get you.
Yeah.
In most of your conservative, what some would call your right-leaning states, you're going to find it to be $100, or in some cases 8, 9, 10% more than that.
Yeah.
In pretty much every single one of your left-leaning or more liberal states, you're going to find it to be significantly less. One of them are not surprising, but more obvious, being like California, where let's compare it to Arizona, where we live. They're saying in Arizona, $100 is going to spend like $100. That same $100 in California will spend like $88. That's substantial. That's significant.
Yeah.
And that's something, going back to speaking to how there are a lot of illegal immigrants that are in the state of California. So I guess if we were to use their argument against them, like, okay, so if you didn't have these illegal immigrants, would that 88 now be 78 or 68?
Yeah.
I mean, how does this work, Chris? And for that matter, is there an end? Is this going to stop?
Yeah, no, good point. I wish to make this map even a little bit more interesting. They should have just coded the states red and blue.
I was thinking the same thing.
So we could really see. But maybe they didn't want it to be too political. But which I don't love necessarily getting into that part of it either. But when I looked at this, you hit the nail on the head. The 13 most expensive states where your $100 goes the least amount are blue states. And the 13 where your dollar goes the furthest are red states. So I don't think that's just a coincidence. There's obviously something there. And, the difference between California and Arizona, it's about 12%, 13%, something like that. But when you compare California to Arkansas, well, now it's 26% difference, right, which is significant. I mean, I think if most people had a quarter more or less pay, they would notice it either way, right? And this takes into account like food, utilities, taxes, housing, transportation. But again, you could argue, or you would think that if California, for example, is taxing more, taking more from the workers in order to provide for everyone else, that the state would be in better shape. And we head over there a lot because of the close proximity to Arizona, and they have obviously a much cooler summers on the coast anyway. And
way of saying it.
Yeah, right. But you'll notice right away as soon as you cross the border. The roads all of a sudden become horrible. I've actually had to replace wheels and tires just from going on road trips to California for the enormous potholes that they have there that we just don't have that often here in Arizona. So the argument should be, hey, we're taxing more so that we can take care of you. Look at our nice clean roads. Look at the lack of homelessness, how well we take care of our citizens. And interestingly, it's exactly the opposite. I mean, you have major homeless encampments. We've been going there for many years, and it's just sad to see some of the great coastal cities are just being bombarded with homeless encampments and drug problems and security issues. And it doesn't matter, even if you're in a $5 or $10 million home on the coast, you're stepping over some of these people to leave your property. We've seen a lot of it. San Francisco especially has made the news, but it's almost all up and down the California coast, which is a shame because it's such a beautiful state. But it just goes to show you how mismanaged all this extra money that they're taking and this extra cost of living. I don't know if they're just lining their own pockets or where the dollars are going, but it's certainly not helping the average citizen there.
Right. Well, and to be clear, we're not picking on California per se. They're a neighbor of ours, and like you, I spent a lot of time there over the years. 20 years ago, I was there very, very often, and it's been disheartening. It's been sad to see just the deterioration and the number of people that have been leaving California for crime reasons, tax reasons, the infrastructure failing or falling apart, as you mentioned. It speaks to the problem over there. And I don't believe this is something that, because there's really no efforts being put forward. I mean, really the only thing that you hear about with California is when there's a problem, okay, we need to figure out how to generate more tax revenue. And that is not going to fix it, because especially when you're talking about bringing in a large base of human beings or individuals that are predominantly not tax-paying individuals. So it is really, I think, a reflection of, and hopefully something that people look at going into this next election. I mean, forget about if you're a conservative or a more liberal, a Republican or a Democrat. Hopefully people are taking a look at these real issues and what matters, and aligning their votes with what is going to be a solution to this problem. And if a person believes that it's all right if our 100 only gets 88, I'm still okay, that's fine. But that's today. What about 5 years from now? What is that 88 going to now be 78 or less? And there's nothing being done that's going to stop this. So this is a perfect example for those of you tuning in of why we started doing this podcast and why we created the report, The Secret War on Cash, which if you haven't contacted our office to receive your free copy, please do so. You can contact us via phone at 1-800-289-2646 or visit us online at www.swissamerica.com. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast already, please do so, as we'd love to continue to talk about this topic and others that I think are very relevant to each and every one of us, and especially given the changing dynamic, the rapidly changing dynamic that exists here. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Chris, thanks for being here, and look forward to having you again on soon.
Thanks a lot. Take care.